were people who just even a month ago were saying, look, there's an outfit in China that is going to eliminate a lot of what NVIDIA provides, and therefore NVIDIA's these chips are way too expensive. What I saw yesterday was that not even a factor in your thinking or anyone else's thinking. It was an abstraction. It was a distraction.
Well, it is true that these processors and these computers are quite expensive. They're quite expensive to make. And this is the largest chip in the world. It is the most complex computer the world's ever made. And so it's expensive to make. However, it saves you a mountain of money because it does work. Saves you a mountain of money because the amount of time it saves you, the amount of times the processing time it reduces is incredible. And number two, now because it generates tokens that you can monetize, the amount of money it helps you make is incredible.
Well, why just in the last 24 hours do I hear from GM, do I hear from Disney, do I hear from Cisco, do I hear from BlackRock, do I hear from CrowdStrike, who all of them say, look, our partnership with Jensen is key to our future.
Well, AI is the foundation, the operating system of every single industry going forward. And the reason for that is, of course, everything that we do in life is underpinned by intelligence. And we create, what NVIDIA builds, is the infrastructure for manufacturing digital intelligence. Now, we're looking at this as one processor, right. But in our data centers, we announced a way yesterday to connect millions of these together using silicon photonics. And so we now have the ability to go from 100,000 of these things to millions of these things running in the data center at the same time. And that infrastructure, that factory, if you will, is the factory of the future.
Now, I do want to go for a moment before I go to robotics and autonomous vehicles. I want to put on my journalist's corrosive, sardonic hat and say, well, wait a second. What if the president puts 25% tariffs on and Michael Dell is slowed down? HPE, we talked about yesterday, they're slowed down, and it could put a limit, if not a cap, on your growth.
Well, we want to build, we're enthusiastic about building in America as anybody. And so we've been working with TSMC to get them ready for manufacturing chips here in the United States. We also have great partners like Foxconn and Wistron who are working with us to bring manufacturing onshore. So long-term, manufacturing onshore is going to be something very, very possible to do, and we'll do it incredibly.
But the Chinese are still a key partner right now. You have a lot of businesses. I would say 17% of your business.
Yeah, in the near term, I would say in the near term, tariffs will not, the impact will not be meaningful, and.
But AI diffusion, like that last initiative by Biden, which said really there are only 18 friendly countries that we want you to do massive business with, that seemed arbitrary, if not judgmental, in a way that I think you and I would say it makes no sense.
As you know, as you just look around here, there are companies from all over the world. AI's gone mainstream. Okay. AI isn't some magical technology. It's incredible technology.
Well,
but it's used for everything. It's used for healthcare and education and agriculture.
Jensen Huang went all out on President Donald Trump after he issued a list of devastating tariffs with the promise of putting even more tariffs on chip manufacturing. Jensen Huang has stated before that he had a plan, but did the plan fail because the stock is falling, or are we yet to see this plan in action? Welcome back, everyone, to Investocracy.
If you have to buy one Mag 7 today, which one ultimately are you buying?
I mean, you're buying Nvidia today?
Well, that's a question of what type of investor you are. There are investors that say, you know what, I'm looking for the most resilient name because when this thing turns, that's going to be a leadership stock.
Right.
There's another mentality, which is what's getting hit the hardest? Where can I get the cheapest stock, or where is like the biggest bounce going to occur?
Gambler's mentality.
I'm in the first camp.
Right.
I'm not looking for the worst falling knife, hoping for a 20% bounce, which you might get.
And you've added to some long positions, including, I'm told, Nvidia, which is ugly today and has not traded well at all lately. Why was this the moment to add to that stock?
True. The semiconductor index is down 20%. Nvidia, as you know, is down from, I think, a peak this year at 150. So this stock's down by a third. Remember, we entered today in kind of bomb shelter positioning. We had puts on the NASDAQ. We had tremendous number of shorts. We're sitting in a lot of cash. We only had 50% of our long book even positioned in the market. So we're dramatically outperforming on a day like today. So we're going from the bomb shelter to simply our safety positioning. And that means adding about 15% of net exposure. And we're adding it in the areas that we believe we're continuing to see secular growth. And as you know, the growth and the demand for GPUs is off the charts. You hear it from OpenAI, you hear it from Google, you hear it from Elon, you hear it from others. I know there's a debate about that, but that's the side of the debate that we're on. And then although we saw these tariffs announced yesterday, we also saw a list of exceptions. And one of the list of exceptions, wise exception, is semiconductors. And I think the reason that semiconductors are being accepted is because for us to charge a tariff on our own chips, right, which are fabricated in Taiwan because they can't be fabricated in the United States, we don't have the fabs yet. TSMC, who he mentioned in his speech yesterday, has committed to massive investments as a result of the president's policy in Arizona to build cutting-edge fabs. But right now he gave them an exception because we know if we increase the cost of these chips that we design to our own companies like Meta, like Google, like Microsoft, like OpenAI, we're only shooting ourselves, right? Because we're in a global race in AI. We can't hamper our ability to win that race. And so I think that was a wise decision to put them on the exception list. I'm sure he's going to keep an eye on whether or not the fabs are being built in Arizona. But I think we're going to net end up in a much better place in terms of our global supply chain as a result of these decisions. But that's the reason we're buying Nvidia today. We think the demand is off the charts. We think the negative impact from tariffs is going to be much less than in other areas. But listen, if we end up in the teeth of a recession, then even Nvidia at 18 or 19 times earnings might not perform that well. Like, we need to avoid a recession in this country. I think it's very bad if we find ourselves in the fall in a recession, and we're heading into the midterm elections in 2026. I don't think the president, the administration, or Congress want to risk a recession, toward the end of this year.
Amidst the chaos of tariff wars, Nvidia finds itself caught in the crossfire, causing its shares to plummet. However, just a week or so before this turmoil, CEO Jensen Huang exuded confidence, suggesting Nvidia's resilience in the face of a trade war. At the GTC conference, Huang assured analysts of the company's robust positioning, shrugging off concerns about immediate tariff impacts. But before going on with the video, are you into cryptocurrency? If so, check out our second channel, Investocracy Crypto. We bring you breaking news, expert analysis, and the latest trends in the fast-moving world of digital assets. Whether you're a seasoned crypto investor or just curious about the future of finance, we've got something for you. Click the link in the description to subscribe to Investocracy Crypto now. Don't miss out and stay ahead of the game. Now, let's get back to the video.
Nvidia, of course, down more than 30% from its all-time highs. That started even before tariffs really sort of entered the picture. I am curious as to whether you see, I guess, a reimagining of the AI chip trade that kind of really powered this market for the last couple of years. Is there maybe the potential that CapEx spend that all these companies have talked about, that will, if not stay intact, at least won't be reduced significantly?
Well, I can tell you this straight up. We do own Nvidia. We would rather own Nvidia over Apple if you compare the two directly. And I think part of the reason is the tariffs are much less likely to really impact Nvidia. Number one, just because when you can't replace an Nvidia B200 top-of-the-line AI accelerator with another chip, there are no alternatives. And so even if we do eventually see tariffs on semiconductors, which was one of the exemptions in this most recent announcement with tariffs, I still think the demand for these semis will be strong. And on top of that, and to your point, we've heard from several companies, OpenAI, XAI with Grok, Meta, Microsoft, they've all made comments more recently about how much demand they have. I mean, OpenAI and XAI have had issues because their servers haven't been able to handle the traffic. The demand is there for these chips, and I think that spend from those hyperscalers is pretty inelastic.
Doug, we did get a story from Bloomberg talking about Microsoft pulling back on some data projects globally. Is this a big concern here, or is this they're just going to rent space rather than build space and we're all good?
It feels like it's been one of these never-ending, he said, she said stories, because we've heard from a few different sell-side reports that Microsoft was planning on canceling some data center projects, and then we've heard from the company that their plans are intact. And I think the best thing we can kind of rely on is, what has the company said? They've talked about building about 100 data centers a year between now and 2030. And so if there's some small changes in maybe where they put the data centers, maybe they do a lease instead of a buy in terms of the CapEx, I'm sure there's small things happening there. But the big picture is the demand is there, and I think they're going to continue building to their plan.
In a bid to weather the storm, Huang hinted at plans to bolster domestic chip production, mirroring Taiwan Semiconductor's massive investment in Arizona. Despite the turbulent waters, Huang remains undeterred, emphasizing Nvidia's commitment to onshore manufacturing for the long haul. Amidst the uncertainty, Nvidia's fate hangs in the balance, especially given its close ties with tech giants like Meta Platforms, Alphabet, Amazon.com, and Microsoft. These behemoths face the brunt of weakening consumer spending and enterprise budgets, painting a grim outlook if the economy falters. But before going any further, if you made it this far into the video, thank you. These videos take a lot of effort and time to make, so if you enjoyed them, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. This goes a long way in helping us grow. That said, back to the video.
Okay, now listen to me for a second. Listen to me. It's down another 7% today. It's horrendous. I've been saying that, right? If I hit that from you? Why Nvidia? Because the White House blessed its goods that are made in Taiwan with no tariff. Too important, yet few noticed. I know there's a widespread belief that we're seeing a slackening in demand for AI infrastructure. All I can tell you is that I monitor this thing like a hawk, and there hasn't been a slackening. It's been in total acceleration mode, but nobody cares. And I know it's headed lower. But at least you know why I'm not selling.
As the dust settles on Nvidia's tumultuous journey, one thing remains certain: resilience in the face of adversity. The winds of change may blow fierce, but Nvidia stands poised to navigate these choppy waters with unwavering determination. But what do you think? Share your thoughts down below. Finally, if you would like to know what companies like Nvidia have been up to these past few days, go ahead and click on the next video on your screen. See you there.